such a horrific story that so many people are trying to come to terms with. It's just impossible to make sense of. But there is an amazing story of survival that came out of South Carolina. A 5-year-old child alive tonight after playing dead inside that church.
It feels more and more like active shooter situations are happening often, including the one here in Washington a few years ago at the Navy Yard. So what is your best chance of survival if it happens to you? Joining us live via Skype is Chris Grollnek. He is an expert in active shooting situations. Chris, first off, you can't rely on someone else to come save you in these situations. Is that the first point you wanted to make?
Absolutely, and thank you so much for having me today. The normal situation ends in approximately 7 minutes or less, and it takes first responders or rescuers approximately 14 to 17 minutes to get to any type of critical incident, such as an active shooter event. So you need to be self-reliant, self-vigilant, and concentrate on basic things, not necessarily fighting, but common sense approaches to common exits, who is in the area. If your sixth sense is talking to you of something being wrong, you're usually right. So we try to teach people to promote that self-awareness and listen to your sixth sense.
What is the first thing you should do if obviously you're not as in best touch with your sixth sense and the shooting starts? You hear shooting. What do you do? First reaction is what?
Well, I've been involved in 2 active shooter events domestically. One as a police officer and one as a father. And I can tell you, watching as a police officer, it was inherent to run to the incident and help people respond, because I've noticed that most people get stuck, I say, basically in fight, flight, or freeze mode, and they freeze to watch the incident as if it's not happening. So you need to talk to yourself and rehearse, what would I do if something goes wrong, and head to the nearest exit. If your sixth sense isn't kicking in and something does start going wrong, get out, escape. Most of the survivors from Aurora, Colorado, as we've learned from the news reports of the trial now, the ones that were most vigilant reacted immediately to escape the theater.
What about the child who played dead and then survived? Is that something in your experience you've seen have those similar kinds of results?
Having children, it's very difficult to talk about them inside these incidents. However, my daughter was in the car with me as a father during one of these incidents, and her reaction was to watch. Some others are to freeze, and I'm not exactly sure what happened with this 5-year-old, but how brave. And my thoughts and prayers are with the families. And this youngster that survived, how brilliant is a 5-year-old to, lack of better terms, lay motionless and let this pass.
Time for one last question. Let me ask you this. At what point in these situations do you just fight, where you got to stand your ground? Maybe you don't have an exit or a way to egress. What do you do? When do you decide you got to just fight?
Well, and you think about when you're on an airline, that's what we're being taught to do now, because you can't escape.
That's right.
Right, and we teach that at CGPGMG or #ActiveShooterExpert. Those promotional values that we preach, if you will, for lack of a better term, is you have to react, you have to escape, and you have to survive. And survival is your best bet as a last chance of fighting back. Anything that you have at your means, use against your opponent, because these people do not like to be addressed. So if they're shooting at you and you actually become the aggressor, you will actually make them turn and go somewhere else to someone that doesn't want to fight, a weakened target, if you will.
React, escape, survive. Chris Grollnek, thank you so much for your expertise on this matter.
I want to let you know our coverage of the church shooting does continue in just a few minutes with a report live from Charleston. Remembering the victims of another tragedy, the 6 students killed in that balcony collapse in Berkeley, California.